Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Black History Nerds, of course. I'm your agent IC. Y'all know what y'all want to do. All right. Go ahead and let us know where you're coming from. Tell everybody good morning in the chat. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We'll give everybody like a minute or so. Hey, Lorene, I saw your text last night. I'll answer you right after Nerds. Good morning, good morning. We got Miami. Renee, how you doing this morning?
Morning. Do you see my artwork back here? Wait, again. That's from your conference a few years ago. Hold on. I framed it.
Oh, wow. Hope to see you this summer.
Yes.
We got the whole family. Amanda, I see. Miss Barbara Ann, how are you doing this morning?
Glad to be in the number. I'm still learning and still going.
All right, I'll wait one more minute. Everybody come in. You know, folks just be gagging. Good morning, Michael. Nice for you to join us. Hey, Deidre, how you doing? Oh, Deidre about to defend that dissertation soon. I can't wait to read the whole thing then. Ashley, good morning. Ashley from Wisconsin, good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Any other person from any warm states? Only Renee saying she's from Miami. Everybody else from all the snow field places here. All right. All right.
It's about 80 something degrees here. Sorry, guys.
You know what, Renee, you about to get kicked off for all of that. I'm about to go ahead and kick you off. How about that? 80 degrees.
We are
Boo.
having a cold front on Tuesday. It's going to be about 60. So we will be freezing.
Boo, Renee. Boo. All right. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Uh-oh. Let's see. Did I? All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to February 21st, Black History Nerds. Of course, I'm Garrett King, your head nerd in charge here. Glad to see everyone here. Sorry we haven't had a lot of Black History Month nerds sessions for this month, but as you can tell, we are in 100 years of Black History Month. So I think everybody on this call is have been pulled in all different directions. Celebrating the 100 years of Negro History Week and 50 years of Black History Month. But we're so honored for you all to be here to listen to Abigail and Ishmael honoring the legacy, creating the Blackprint 20, and they'll talk a little bit about that really soon. Of course, for those who are new, we are the Center for K-12 Black History and Racial Literacy Education. We are a space for PK-12 teachers to learn effective ways to teach about Black history and race. And we do this through our research projects, our professional development, our networking, our advocacy, and our consulting practices here. Here's the 2026 center here. We are in transition. So of course, like next year, the center will look totally different with new people that you all are going to meet in the coming months. But of course, you all know the regulars. Y'all know Donovan. Y'all know Daphne. Y'all know Abigail. Y'all know Christina, and y'all know Hannah. So we're happy that you join us because you could be anywhere else, but you decided to nerd out with us this morning. Some more nerd sessions coming up for the rest of the semester. The next nerd session, Tiffany, who is a UB alum, will present her topic around reading instruction, particularly the ways in which Black communities and Black teachers have taught reading, which kind of differentiates a little bit from the science of reading that is becoming really popular. And then Dr. Natasha Henry Dixon from our friends across the border up there in Canada to learn some Canadian history. So we're looking forward for those two. And then Daphne Bibbs will do her Black History Nerds in May. Spring 26 book clubs. We plan on doing two, book clubs here, beginning on March 14th, which is the next Black History nerd session. We will have a session probably afterwards or maybe before, depending on who's going to facilitate it. I'm still finalizing that. But Jarvis Givens has wrote a, wonderful book about the 100 years of Black history. So we'll do that for a month, and then we'll switch over to another book. We are thinking about doing a summer book club for our speaker, who's going to be the speaker for our Black History Month. For our Teaching Black History conference. Of course, right now we are accepting applications for our Teaching Black History micro credential. This is a 1 year micro credential, $1,500, which is a great price. We still have a lot of school districts and states who have Black history mandates, meaning that they have Black history courses that need really good teachers. So if you know folk who teach African American history or would like to teach African American history, or if you know administrators from those states, I know Colorado is just making a Black History mandate. So if you know teachers in the Denver area or anywhere in Colorado, please have them apply for our micro credential. Of course, Abigail is the lead instructor for that, and then Janelle Hoover is her assistant. Our 2026 Teaching Black History Conference theme is Black Founding Mothers and Fathers. Proposal due dates are coming up real soon, February 28th. So if you have any Black history um, proposals that you would like to submit, please submit those. I'll have Donovan probably put the proposal link in the chat there for those to access, as well as other aspects of it. So we're looking forward because this is the 250-year anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, signing of the Declaration of Independence. So we're going to focus on Black folk who helped found the country or founded Black America. Our Research and Race series will be, sometime in the spring, most likely April. So I'll have more information hopefully by the 14th for you all. Of course, each year for the 6th year in a row, the center has done a special issue in Education Week around Black History. Month here. I have Donovan kind of put the link in the chat there for you all to check out. Please support that. They have been very successful in terms of readership, and the more readership we have, the better we can make it 7, 8, 9, 10 straight editions with Education Week, which is the largest education-centered magazine, online magazine in the country. All right. So y'all didn't come here to talk to me or hear me talk. Y'all came here to listen to Abigail and Ishmael. So, Abigail Henry is a Schomburg Fellow and doctoral student at the University of Buffalo. Prior to moving to Buffalo, Abigail taught ninth grade African American history at a charter school in West Philadelphia for 12 years. Abigail has won a Pulitzer Center grant to develop curriculum incorporating the 1619 Project, help overhaul the historic 20-year update at to the the school districts of Philadelphia's African American history curriculum, and is the founder of Black Cabinet, a consultancy that focuses on Black history education and racial proficiency development. As a graduate fellow at UB, she is working to support the development of the Teaching Black History and Racial Literacy Center as a micro-credential as an instructor for the Teaching Black History micro-credential program. And additionally, her other Black history and racial literacy consulting has been provided for Villanova University, Harvard College, PBS, Trellis for Tomorrow Foundation, True Fiction, and the College Board, among others. Ishmael is a dedicated educator who, for the last 17 years, has worked with students in Philadelphia from preschool age to high school for over a decade. Ishmael has led professional development sessions for social studies instruction across the city of Philadelphia and the nation. He has facilitated professional development sessions at institutions like the University of Pennsylvania, Penn State, and Princeton University on issues ranging from structural racism to bridging the knowledge skill gap between high school and post-secondary institutions. His teaching and activism is rooted in the theoretical educational frameworks developed by Freire, which emphasizes the interconnection nature of education and participating in the transformation of the world. As co-chair of the Big City Social Studies, he helps lead large urban school districts who attempt to influence the broader field of social studies education. So, without further ado, I would like to pass the mic over to our featured nerds for this Saturday.
All right. Good morning, everyone. It is so wonderful to be here Saturday morning with my Black History homie Ish. I love seeing so many people from Philly here. I also have some family here. I'm in great company, so I'm just really excited to present what I'm calling an Ish and Abigail John that started over 2 years ago. I have been very blessed over the past several years to work closely with Ishmael on a few Johns, including this probably Ish, the biggest one we've ever worked on, right? The Blackprint 20. And so what we are going to do this morning is Ish is going to talk to you a little bit about the legacy, what's going on behind it, and then I will show you what we actually did over that weekend. I'll tell you about the history of the name and where it came from, and some of the things that we specifically did on February 7th, the day of the summit. Thank you for Professor King for your introduction. That was fabulous. I've worn multiple hats, and I'm just really happy to be here at the center now. It's been a big change to leave from Philly to come up here to Buffalo and be here in the cold, but I'm surviving and I am making it work. And let me pass it over to Ish for a second.
Peace, everybody. Ishmael Jimenez. Right, I'm my 16th year with the school district of Philadelphia. It's a love-hate relationship. And I also need to say that everything I say today does not reflect the views of my employer, for anybody that needs to know that. I'm also, as like I mentioned, co-chair of the Big City Social Studies Group, and proud father of my four boys. You can see us outside a Black-owned bookshop in Phoenix, Arizona. Yes, there is such a thing. And I just want to shout out the book I'm reading right now, which is over 1,000 pages. It's a monster, Capitalism of Global History. It goes from a non-Eurocentric lens, and it's very informative. So. We wanted to start kind of talking about like the barriers, right? So we need to be honest about the current context in which we see Black history education and really education in general. And so when we see that we have historical amnesia, if folks have been following the news in Philadelphia, for example, the slavery memorial at the National Park was taken down, then ordered back up, and then ordered to stop being put back up all the way, with the Trump administration still appealing. So we see the systematic erasure of Black excellence and Black history. We also see this overdependence on Eurocentric constructs, right? I think Dr. Laguerre King does a great job saying that Black history should be taught from a Black lens through Black experiences and not just about Black people, right? But unfortunately, a lot of times Black history is put in these Eurocentric constructs, which reinforces kind of this storyline that undermines what Black history's power can actually be. And this prevents collective unity and action. To shout out the ancestor, Dr. Bobby Wright, who came up with the term menticide to make it seem like history is unimportant, that Black people's accomplishments are tied to the imperial project of America or the Americas or Europe. And then we also see this in media manipulation and educational indoctrination. And so when we look at and we go now to see what this actually looks like, right? So we're talking about like less than 65 years since the modern civil rights movement, right? And we see these laws and these victories that were gained being rolled back. Not only rolled back, but we see the rise of white grievance becoming the new racial project of like claiming discrimination against whites and everything like that, while also at the same time simultaneously undermining Black history through book bans, through literacy being narrowed to a technical skill, stripped of critical thought, right, and cultural memory. And these attacks reflect a long tradition in in America, right? And me and Dr. King were talking about this before this journal started, of kind of undermining Black history, Black intellectual traditions, and just using it when it's popular. And then when it's not popular anymore, you see people scatter like roaches. With that being the national context, we like to highlight the fact that, well, the Blackprint 20 doesn't come out of nowhere. None of these ideas come out of nowhere. So I just wanted to highlight some of the foundational infrastructure that led to some of the ideas, and obviously shout out to the ancestor Carter G. Woodson, who institutionalized the study of Black history as rigorous scholarship, not just a procession of illustrious individuals, which unfortunately Black History Month has been reduced to. I also want to lift up Satima Clark, who advanced literacy as democratic participation, and her role at the Highlander School and her refusal after 20 something years being a teacher and being told she had to give up her NAACP donations or she would be fired, and she just left. John Hendrik Clark, another shout out for his infusion of global African consciousness and his scholarship around connecting the continent and its history and its ancient history with the history of Black folks in America and the struggle of resistance. And I do want to uplift two scholars that I can't get enough from listening to them. Dr. Greg Carr at Howard University, and of course our own Dr. Laguerre King, who developed the Black Historical Consciousness Framework for K-12 education, and Dr. Carr's work around Africana studies. So when we're talking about this, I like to bring it back to Philly, right? And it's no coincidence that the Blackprint 20, and we'll get to where that came from and the ideas with it, but it's no coincidence it came out of Philadelphia. If you are unaware, one of the largest, at the time, largest student walkout happened here in Philadelphia in 1967, where over 3,000 students walked out demanding that Black history be taught in schools. But not only that, that folks can wear their hair natural at schools, that people can rock dashikis, even the demand for more Black teachers were part of the demands that folks had along with free lunch and other things that now we take for granted, but was at the time very revolutionary. Now, all this eventually led to Philadelphia becoming the first city in the country to require African American history to be a graduation requirement for all students who graduate from Philadelphia high schools. Now, if you peep game, 2005 and 2006, the school years in which that became a requirement, well, guess what? This is the 2025-2026 school year. So this is 20 years of Philadelphia being at the forefront of African American history being a required subject. But not only that, it was also mandated and infused within the K through 12 curriculum. So even just the work of on the ground educators creating the infrastructure between the 1967 walkout and into 2005 allowed Philadelphia to jump off and really infuse a lot of these lessons and studies within the very framework. But along with that, we cannot ignore the fact, and this was pointed out at the beginning, this is also the 100-year commemoration of Carter G. Woodson's Negro History Week, which he started on February 7th, 1926. And I'm hoping people understand all these patterns and catching all these connections. February 7th, 1926, February 7th, 2026. This shows the thought that all these things. So when me and Abigail started having a conversation about what we can do, we connected these two ideas and said something needs to be done, not only to commemorate the 100-year anniversary of Negro History Week, but to connect it with its intellectual, posterity, which is a requirement, but also mandates across the country, but specifically in Philadelphia, the requirement to graduate. So this was not won by people giving it to people. You understand? Black history has to be fought for, it has to be resisted. Our whole thing from the very jump was this has to be organic, this has to be authentic. We want community members there, we want the youth there, we want scholars there, we want educators there. We want to bring the community together in order to have a larger conversation. And this isn't something that is easily done, right? We initially had a vision that would be this huge thing that has obviously we had to go back to the grassroots and rely on people to really uphold this public memory and school policy, which still remains on contested terrain today. So as we like to think of it, the Blackprint 20 that we developed stands in the lineage of organized historical defense. We recognize at the 100-year mark, at the 20-year mark of Philadelphia, and the moment and context of history we find ourselves in now, that was very important that we start to define what does Black history and Black history education look in the 21st century, but not being just like we created it, but that we're coming from a long intellectual genealogy that has informed this work and informed our own kind of self and well-being. So I always love to use this Jarvis Givens quote. Shout out to Dr. Givens, who Dr. King mentioned in his book, The 100 Years of Black History. It is the constant seeking of an outside to white supremacy that might be elusively be understood as Black freedom. So we wanted to shout out our dope combination of expertise. Me and Abigail did not do this alone. We had a great volunteer committee. These people dedicated hours of their time and labor with the believing in the vision that this type of work is so important. So shout out to Tiffany Murphy, our operations person that kept everybody straight and made everything look beautiful. Brittany Davis, who's a teacher at Boys Latin here in Philadelphia, to really doing some real logistics for us. Regina Banks, bring that young creative energy in. I think she's like 24 years old, right, Abigail?
Mhm.
So, training our replacements, Mama Jackie Wiggins, who is an elder, Tia Graves, who's a school teacher coach, and Michiko Quinones, who is from 1838 Black Metropolis and developed our great logo with the woman looking towards the future with the blueprint behind her.
Um, I also just want to point out too, this group of individuals, they were all maintaining their full-time jobs. They were a volunteer committee. So they were planning this Blackprint 20 between meetings, between classes, in the evenings, on the weekends, and it really would not have been possible without all their support. And the fact that it was such a diverse group of expertise really made the event even more successful. We also need to shout out, though, all of our sponsors. First and foremost, the Center for Black Educator Development. One of the things I didn't mention in my intro is I got into teaching African American history because 15 years ago, Sharif Al-Mekki, now the founder and CEO of the Center for Black Educator Development, hired me to teach African American history at Mastery Shoemaker. When Ish and I decided to pivot and figure out a way to keep this event going on, we brainstormed how we were going to get financial sponsorship. And because of Seabed's work in supporting the development of Black teachers, it felt like a natural partnership. And so we are very grateful for them coming on board. They supported with some of the planning. Um, that this event too would not have been possible without their financial sponsorship. We are also very grateful for the Free Library of Philadelphia that allowed us to host for free the gala event Friday evening in their rooftop space. That was beautiful. Then we had some other sponsors like Black Boys Latin of Philadelphia. That's where Brittany Davis teaches. They graciously allowed us to use their school as a host for the event. Um, We Reign Incorporated, Black Lives Matter Philly, Councilmember Kendra Brooks, Grandmas for Literacy. They were all additional supporters. Ish, do you want to say anything about those last four?
Yes, I definitely want to shout out Black Lives Matter Philly, who was actually one of our biggest sponsors besides the Center for Black Educator Development. Not only did they donate over $700 to the event, but they also bought 20 tickets, 10 of them for students and 10 of them for community members to attend the event for free, which allowed us to open it up and offer tickets to folks who might not been able to afford, or students that might have not come unless it was for free, right? And then shout outs to Grandmoms for Literacy, which is a up and coming newly nonprofit for reading to young children here in Philadelphia, and they went out their way, even while they're raising funds on their own, to donate as much as they could to us. So all the folks on here are just super dedicated to Black education and Black history education. Oh, you're muted, Abigail.
Thanks. Thanks, Ish. Okay, I'm going to share some slides and thoughts from my opening remarks from the Blackprint 20 on the day of the summit. I have been really interested in Ruha Benjamin's work on cultivating imagination. And this is an image of the president's house when the exhibits were removed. When I was in Philly for the event, I stopped by to see it, um, actually the Sunday after the event. And I can't tell you, just like something that is to witness it after not being in Philly in a really long time is just something else. It was really, really painful and upsetting, and just reminded me of why this work matters so much, the need to create spaces for educators to come together and intimately discuss Black history, also creating products and resources that other educators and students could use in the future. And so when I thought about my role in helping design the Blackprint 20, I was really leaning on Ruha Benjamin's work. She said, what if our imagination is also a sacred space where we connect with ourselves, our ancestors, even future generations, a place where poetic knowledge can emerge, right? And so my goal was really to help with the committee create a space where this poetic knowledge could emerge and support future teachers and educators in the future. And so, where the Blackprint 20 came from, I absolutely love this story. Okay, this is the real reason behind the name. I listen to a lot of rap and hip hop music. I listen to it in the car, while I work out, while I am reading. Jay-Z is my number one, although J. Cole's catching up and is a slight number two. And growing up, I was obsessed with his Blueprint albums, Blueprints 1, 2, 3. And so early, like 2.5 years ago, when we were on Zoom trying to come up with a name, I was like, well, Philadelphia really serves as the Black history education leader, given the fact that we have required Black history for 20 years. We are the foundation, the blueprint. Other people can learn from us, from our leadership, that blueprint being the foundation, the guide for how a house is built. And so I was like, well, what if we do a pun on like the blueprint and change it to the black print? And then the 20, right? The 20 comes from 20 years of Black history being a required course. All right, Ish, I think this is you for a second.
And so, with that being in mind, I love this James Cone quote, right? The Black community must reclaim its history by unraveling new meanings in old tales so that the past may emerge as an instrument of Black liberation. And with that being said, one of the things that we did along with the summit on February 7th is on the evening on February 6th at the Free Library in their beautiful Skyline room, we had an award ceremony. And each of the awards represented an ancestor. So we were thinking, who are real folks that we can point to within the city of Philadelphia doing this work that represent the spirit, the ancestral kind of thrust of the folks that really inspire and held ground when other people flaked. So the first person we highlighted for the Fannie Lou Hamer Award of Civic Courage and Community Empowerment was, you can go next slide, Keziah Ridgway. And if you don't know this sister, Google her up. She's the real deal, Holyfield. Obviously, I'm not going to read everything about what she does, but she does so much here in Philadelphia. And regardless of attacks and demeaning, she's still out there standing up for students and still teaching the truth. The second award that we gave out was the Francis Ellen Watkins Harper Award, and this was around cultural expression and educational advocacy. We were thinking, how can we honor someone in Philadelphia who holds up art but does it and really feeds the Black community in their role? And the person that we selected for this was Lynette Brown Edwards, who is the director of arts here in Philadelphia for the school district. But she also is the first director of arts in a Black city like Philadelphia, and she goes out of her way to make sure that that is uplifted. The third one that we did was Octavius Catto. And Octavius Catto, if you don't know who this brother is, if you ain't from Philadelphia, look him up. He was not only an educator, but he also was a scholar, a civic advocate, and actually was shot on the day of voting during the Reconstruction period, but in Philadelphia, where he was advocating for people to vote. And the brother that we identified for this is a brother here in Philadelphia doing real work, good brother Gabe, people call him around here, Gabriel Bryant, who's a mental health expert and leader here in Philadelphia, but also an activist, a revolutionary, and someone that really carries the legacy on here in Philadelphia. The fourth person that we identified for the Caroline LeCount Award, which we wanted to focus on somebody who was not only an educator, but someone who has that institutional transformational ability. And the person that we selected this is Dr. Aaliyah Bradley here in Philadelphia, who is not only a scholar, but also a great leader at the school she at Bethune Elementary. And now she actually just got elevated to run the city of Philadelphia's attempt to recreate the Harlem zone, similarly to Jeffrey Canada here in Philadelphia. But she's rooted within liberation and liberation thinking. And finally, and I don't even want to say finally, because all these folks is great, the Carter G. Woodson Award of Intellectual and Curriculum Freedom. And so when this came out and thinking about who can really embody this, who really does this type of scholarship, this hard work, builds the institutions, maintain institutions of infrastructure around disciplined historical study, Dr. Diane Turner, who is the chief curator of the Blockson collection here in Philadelphia, which I believe is the second largest African American collection in the country, right behind the Schomburg. And Charles Blockson not only was her mentor, but she guides and writes books and scholarships herself, and now maintains his legacy and building up the Afro-American collection at Temple University Libraries. And if you don't know who this sister is, like I said, you need to Google all these folks because she's the real deal. And her speech when she got her award, she got up there and schooled everybody on the history and legacy of Carter G. Woodson. And finally, not even finally, but when we're thinking of the summit and who can really be two capstones for us to really have this larger conversation about the intellectual genealogy, about how it relates to education, the centrality of Black history. Um, we identified Dr. Carr and Dr. LeGarrette King, and we were blessed that both of them said yes. These are the first people we thought of. So we were truly humbled to have them in our presence. They stayed with us the whole time, from the awards banquet to the summit, all day, participating in sessions, interacting with folks, engaging in the real work of networking and building Black history education infrastructure. So the shout out to these two great brothers who went out their way, came from Buffalo, came from DC, and descended on to Philadelphia, and then put people on, not only Dr. Carr focusing on the intellectual genealogy here in Philadelphia, which led to the Black history requirement, but Dr. King putting us in front of us the reality that we face now and the importance of this type of work.
All right, and so on the day of the summit, some of the items and events that we included for participants to participate in is we had a lot of um, just call and response. And so we opened with this. I had the audience repeat after me when I said, our students deserve the full truth, our communities deserve to be honored, our Black history deserves to be taught with pride. We also had um, a the Boys Latin of Philadelphia Charter School Choir, Brothers in Song. They did a performance of Lift Every Voice and Sing. It was really nice to have youth voices as part of this event as well. Um, Regina Banks, the younger Black history teacher, she led a libations also to get us started. That was really nice to honor our ancestors at the very beginning of that Saturday. Because of the inspiration of where the Blackprint 20 name came from, with Jay-Z's Blueprint albums, one of the things we additionally included was having a student album cover competition. And so we put this out on social media. We shared the key themes of this event, and we asked students to submit an album cover design with a playlist. What I did then was I created poster boards that were set up for the event, and everyone who attended the Blackprint 20 on that Saturday was able to vote for their favorite album cover competition. And we are sending each of these student winners the gift cards. All of them are really, really beautiful, but I just want to show the top three winners. These first two came from Samuel Fell School and Massimum School. And then the number one, first place winner, was a student also from Samuel Fells. This particular album cover design, a lot of the participants and attendees were really, really taken with. I think it's about something with a woman, her hairstyle, looking in a certain direction. It's really, really beautiful and empowering. So, shout out to those students for winning the album cover competition.
Abigail, you mind telling folks how many people submitted, how many students?
Yes, we had a total of 22 submissions, and then we were able to include all of them.
I,
Um,
I
we
think it's
all,
just, oh,
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think it's just so important. You know how hard it is to get high school students to submit stuff on time. So the shout out to Abigail and all the teachers that really put in the time and make sure that folks can contribute. It's sometimes with high school students like herding cats, y'all, and everybody knows that.
hmm Ish, why don't you talk about Black boys making noise?
Yes. And so we were blessed with the presence of Black Boys Making Noise, which is led by this brother, Paul Best, here in Philadelphia. And they're a combination of young high school students. They started in middle school and they do different oral storytelling uh, together in unison and separates to tell a larger story. So at the event itself, they told a story modeled off of Beer Rabbit of kind of what it means to actually navigate this system and survive being Black in this world. And it was a beautiful spoken word that each of them came up and had different roles and different type of energy. Each of them introduced themselves as the type of speaker they were. So again, we really wanted to uplift this type of tradition because if you're familiar, obviously, hopefully everybody is with the Black history tradition and Black culture, the oral storytelling is a foundational part of this work. And to have this done by youth in a way that was original and that really bred life into the room right before Dr. LeGarrette King gave his last keynote was just so instrumental in the way how this overall conference and theme went.
All right. One of the things that we did differently for this conference is that we required that presenters make their resources available. In addition to the 22 album cover submissions that we received over 150 proposals for presenting at the Saturday Summit. We were only able to accept 45, and so we went through a rigorous process with a rubric to figure out who would be able to present on that Saturday. It was really important to us because of Philadelphia's legacy to have something that both physical and digital that we could make available to the public and also preserve. As you know, if you go to a lot of different educational conferences, sometimes people do not make their slides available. They want to keep their intellectual property, and I 100% respect that. We also, at the same time, wanted to do something different at this conference and create primary sources that could be used in the future. That is what I see this time capsule as a document, both online and physical, where perhaps 20 years from now, Blackprint 40 or something, other students and teachers can read the words of both students, teachers, family members, all of us from being there at the event. This was really important to me, as well as I'm seeing um, Black history being removed from Philadelphia streets, from websites. As I'm leading this micro credential today, actually, I'm teaching a lesson this afternoon on Black identities. And Isaac Woodard is this Black soldier who returned from World War II, who was beaten blind within the first 5 hours of his return. And the lesson that I used to have for him from 2 years ago, the resources are no longer available on the Library of Congress's website. And so this is very problematic if teachers have resources that they've been using for lessons, but then can't potentially have access to right now or in the future. So we saw this time capsule as a means to create primary sources. That's the whole empowering Black history. So here's just a few images of what the time capsule looked like. That is the front of the binder. We had a physical table set up where people could stop by. They could use a sticker as an inspiration. They could just write on an index card about why they were there, what Black history means to them. I'll show you just a few more. Oh, and here in the top right too, you'll see the two binders. So on the left here, it's like Still We Teach, and on the right is Still We Rise. So everything that people wrote and submitted within at the conference is going to go within the Still We Teach binder. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to also print out all the materials that were submitted for the digital time capsule. I'm going to print them out and put them in the Still We Rise binder. That's documentation of all the presenters' work. Sorry, y'all, I'm fighting a little cold here. So here are some other ones. We had Dr. Tamika Tillery. She wrote something. Nia Jones wrote something as well. And then let me just pause right here for a second. This is where you can actually access the time capsule and also join questions and answers. I'll find the link and I'll drop it in the chat for you. It should take you to a Padlet where you can see all the resources that the presenters used for their presentation.
And I just want to veg you back on the importance of this, the idea of the time capsule, right? As if you're familiar, if you just do like a search around what quantum physics and quantum theories coming up with now, is the idea that time is not linear, it overlaps. So what we have created here has already been found already in real time. So if you think of it in those terms, the time capsule becomes even more significant in the way that we're thinking about how do we maintain this intellectual heritage, this lineage, regardless and throughout time and throughout space. And it's real interesting that scientists have found this now, where, obviously our ancestors and folks before and meant from many indigenous cultures have acknowledged this for generations and for centuries before, before this so-called science has figured this out. So I just really want to emphasize and shout out you, Abigail, for really taking the lead on this and making sure that, folks can actually see and are probably seeing in how time overlaps right now, what was produced and what its significance is. So even what is already happened will happen again. And then how will that look like will be influenced by this work right here. So I just want to salute all the people who submitted their work and gave up their intellectual property to be seen and referred to for later generations. And so one of the things that we wanted to do, and this goes to whatever now, because this is what this work is important, is a call to action, right? One thing we emphasize to folks is that, folks, not everybody knew each other, right? A lot of people arrived as strangers, but we felt like we were leaving as family. Folks connected, really had a real chance and ability to learn from one another, to share with another, to make contacts across state lines. Like this is based in Philly, but we have folks from North Carolina presenting, from Connecticut. I already shouted out Dr. King coming up down from Buffalo. Abigail came from Buffalo. So we would like to think of this type of work as just to start, like a seed that we're just planting along many other seeds and trees already in existence that will sprung and make shade for folks, for our children, for posterity, right? For humanity moving into the future. So this call to action at the event was not only just to symbolize, February 7th, 2026 is 100 years since February 7th, 1926, and that what Carter G. Woodson created right there still exists, still has volume, still has that thickness that we need to inform what we mean and understand ourselves and our history and really become better human beings, quite frankly. So I strongly encourage everybody who is on the call right now to have this call action. Go out in the communities. When you attend events, ask folks, what are you doing to actually hold up Black history, right? This can be in your school if you're a teacher. This can be out in your community with your neighbors or at events when people are talking about it. Because I do want to emphasize that Black history is not a procession of illustrious individuals, right? It's one thing to know about, Martin Luther King. It's another to know the complexity and the theories and the ideas and the historical contention around what those theories are. And what does that mean when it's applicable to our real world experience today in the context that we see ourselves in? When we look at it, we know for a fact that all these things can be easily taken away. So we have to build the infrastructure ourselves to make sure that withstands all the storms that are lying ahead, because there are storms lying ahead. And how do we maintain and build something strong so humanity doesn't lose an essential piece that can inform really how the world can become a better place? So we want to share our contact information. We have a Instagram page if you do that type of thing, at the Blackprint_20. There we plan to share other resources, other opportunities. I definitely want to highlight one opportunity that's coming up right now through Temple University that's open to teachers and educators across the country, where you can come to Philadelphia for a 1 week seminar at Temple University and to make a unit on Black civic organizations. And then this can inform kind of like units of study and everything that can be used by other people, but you will receive a stipend. And we also have travel stipends for folks who come. And then from the cohort that we create this year, and this is the second year we're doing this, y'all, folks will be able to, 3 people will be selected to join us in Buffalo for the Black History Conference. So as you can see, we're trying to connect the lines to see that all this work should not be happening in isolation, that these webs and networks need to be strengthened and connected to one another in a way where we can actually bring this into fruition in a real way. You can also email us at theblackprint20@gmail.com. This will connect you directly, and we still have uh, tote bags and t-shirts that we're selling at the event. If you're interested, I strongly suggest either message us at the Blackprint_20 on Instagram or email us, and you can have a part of history. And that funds that we are receiving for those will go directly to the Center of Black Educator Development, who is raising funds for their Black Teacher Pipeline Fellowship, which would guarantee teachers who or future teachers $5,000 a year while they're in college for 4 years. And if they become a teacher and remain a teacher for 5 years, they receive $20,000. And I always say, man, I wish I had that when I was going through that, John, man, because that $20,000 in my 5th year could have changed up the game. Because if you're familiar, after 5 years, if you're still in the teaching field, if you're still in the teaching game, you're more likely to stay. You've already developed the pedagogical skills. And see, already, I keep on going back to this, how we're trying to connect these dots in a really authentic way, where we're really uplifting the work, not for the aggrandizement of individuals, but for the infrastructure that needs to be built in order to withstand future storms. So, with that being said, I want to say this quote. You mind if I say this quote to everybody real quick, Abigail? Because it's heavy. The past lives in your brain, in your behavior, the way you see life, and the way you see yourself. Everything that happens to you in the present is filtered through past experiences present in your mind. This means the past is operationally present at every moment. If that past is distorted, if your perception of it is incorrect, if it's absent, then you will look at things in the present. Your perception will be distorted. You will not be able to effectively use what you see right in front of your face. You will not be able to take advantage of possibilities that you have, nor will you be able to design your own future because your history has been distorted. Thank you, Abigail. I don't know if you want to add something to that, to the back end.
No, I think that was a beautiful ending, Ish. I love that quote.
Yeah, I do too.
Every time you read it, it still gives me chills.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely powerful quote. No, I thought it was really interesting to have you guys come out here and talk about the Black Print 20 because there's of course there's a movement, in the US, right, to well, there's always been a movement to distort history, but there's been a movement to deny history. And being in this Black history business, right, um, for the past decade plus, there's a hunger out there for Black history. And when we talk about 100 years of Negro History Week, those 100 years, the reason why we got to 100 years is because based on Black communities and Black grassroots organizations and educators and people who pushed, right, the narrative forward, or push Negro History Week forward, or push Black history education forward, right? It wasn't the government, it wasn't state governments, it wasn't these large organizations or corporate, it was the people, right? It was people, it was educators, it was students who wanted this for their communities because if anything, no matter where you are on the political spectrum in terms of Blackness, there's always been folk that wanted to promote our history because we understand the seriousness of when our history is lost, right? And we can quote, all these great people, Woodson, Du Bois, Wilson, Franklin, all these particular people that have said this for over a century, right? So seeing a blueprint could be a blueprint for other people around the country to have their own spaces, right? Particularly when we have places and places that are not as kind to aspects of Black history. Well, what can they do to kind of push it, right? Join your local Asala chapter or create your own, lane out there to help, educate. Um, the future, right? So yeah, so very good presentation, and I really enjoyed myself in Philadelphia for those days and met some really outstanding people, and that's really what it's all about is the networking and understanding that you're not the only person out there that's doing this work. All right, any questions or comments or thoughts for Ish and Abigail? Go ahead, Ms. Barbara.
I was waving to Abigail because I just sent her a direct message. I it's been a long time since I've been in a loop to really do something um significant But with these people here in Philadelphia, I could get involved with them. I'm a former preschool teacher in Philadelphia. I've been watching the progress go here, and there is something I can do, if nothing but be a grandma reader. The disabled, the aged can still do something because we have history in ourselves we could share. Having lived through all of this here that's happened in Philadelphia, I've lived through it. And tell me, I know a whole lot that I could share. So I'm going to be quiet because they know I get talky.
Oh, and see, that's needed. And I definitely, if you're unfamiliar with grandmas for literacy, that's exactly what Mama Toya is doing, is reading to fifth graders and just having these conversations about Black books and focusing on that through that lens. And it's just always wonderful to hear people feel that energy and be like, I'm ready to hit the ground running. So.
Any other questions? Are there questions in the chat or anything like that? Go ahead, Joshua.
So I have a question. I came a little bit late to the meeting, but I wanted to ask, as a young Black man in the educational space, how do I create or promote Black history to students that are very, like, the knowledge of Black culture is more or less like popularity culture, like, people that are famous, but they never really focus on like the actual history behind like what we had to get through to get to the point where how would I teach that in a class? Just wondering.
You want to go first, Abigail? I got a lot of thoughts around that.
Yeah, that's a great question. Joshua, where are you from?
I'm from New York City, and right now I'm stationed. I go to UB, and will want to become a teacher in the university at Buffalo public school area. I mean, sorry about that. Confused it.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to plug the micro credential. I hope you do the micro credential at some point. I always think a great starting point for students who can't make connections to Black history in the past is to actually start with Professor King's principle, local and social Black histories. For me, when I was teaching African American history in West Philly, I always started the school year with a unit on Meek Mill. I started with something present, a person they were interested in. We looked specifically at his experience with the probation system and then the movement that came around to help protest over his return to incarceration after popping wheelies in New York. And as I am teaching that little 3-day mini unit, the first couple of days of school, and making connections to Black criminality of the past, any sort of Black resistance, um, I have students hooked by the end of that third day. And so my advice, and I'm interested to hear what Ish's is to always start with something local. Find an organization or perhaps a Black celebrity that does any sort of Black history work close to your environment and find ways to make connections through your local Black history to the past.
Yeah, and I definitely want to co-sign that. I think uh, education's a two-way street, right? So if your students don't know who you are and you don't know who your students are, ain't educating going down. You know what I mean? You should have high expectations, expect them to read and write every single day in class, right? Even if they grumbling about doing that, but what you put in front of them should be used in a way where they're able to participate in this ongoing conversation, right? So it's introducing them to the ideas. It's introducing them to kind of the historical contentions that exist, right? You can't, I mean, like, I'm a huge advocate. You can't talk about Martin Luther King without talking about Ella Baker's critique of a charismatic leader, right? And you want students to understand where do they fall on these lines. Like when you think of the difference of philosophy of Du Bois and Booker T. Washington, not versus each other, but kind of how they differed in the same objective. How can you talk and bring them into that conversation where they feel like they're contributing, but it's also related to the real day? So one of the things I always did, which was highly successful at the beginning of class, would have students analyze a different quote from a Black thinker related to kind of the larger themes that we were talking about throughout the whole year. And then have that, and then it can be a combination of rap songs, it can be, or rap lyrics and then mix them all together. And then throughout the year, you'd be surprised how much students are reflective, and also be able to tell you exactly why they think that what they think based on what was said before in relation to how they think the world is today. Because our students come in with a lot of knowledge, and we need to stop thinking that we're pouring into something that's empty. They're coming in with their experiences, they're coming in with an idea of what Blackness is, and we need to really have them understand in a deeper way. And I don't care what race the students are, right? You can be in front of like a bunch of students who are, pink with purple polka dots. But if you're not really challenging them to really see the complexity and depth through reading and writing and the scholarship, rigorous scholarship necessary to really understand this, then we're already doing them a disservice because they will fall into the stereotypes and how folks are indoctrinated with anti-Blackness in our society. I think I went over a little bit there.
Yeah, thank you so much. That answers my question perfectly. And also, I've had a conversation with Dr. King also in classes that I've had with him, and he's relayed the same information of bringing more into like their actual real world experience. That's something that they can relate to, and that's something that I'm realizing that it does. A lot of students do know a lot, especially if you bring it to somebody they know. But thank you so much for both of those insights.
Yes.
Um, Aisha has when does the call to proposals go out for Blacklist 2027? I think she meant like after she finishes her proposal for the Teaching Black History Conference, she would like to do a proposal for the Blacklist 2027.
Blackprint 21, Blackprint
Yeah.
21-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we're already meditating and ideating. We're still recovering, right, from what we
Yes.
did like 2 weeks ago. But the idea is, the center is definitely supportive of continuing supporting us. We definitely want to think of how we can actually build an infrastructure so we're less fundraising and more moving towards development to make this sustainable, especially now that the Blackprint 20 is actually even trademarked, right? And we want to make sure that we can continue this legacy and it's just not a one-off. So definitely follow us on the Instagram, email us so we can add you to a list. But hopefully we can get proposals out sooner than later. Hopefully this summer, maybe it would be uh, right on time if we can have it ready by
Yeah.
LeGarrett's Black History Conference. What do you think, Abigail?
I would definitely, if we're going to do it again, start earlier. We really started in picking up the speed in December, and it was like a 2-month turnaround.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So we're at our end unless there's something very pressing. All right.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, ma'am.
We're talking about ancient history, but there are people living in our cities now, my age, who know a whole lot about recent Black history that has brought us to this point so that we could do this. And we are ignoring those people. We have a lot to contribute because we have lived through a lot.
Yes, yes, definitely. I concur. Um, let's give them a hand again. Um, I think sometimes people don't realize as someone who is building an institution, an African American history institution. I can tell you that being an institutional builder is extremely difficult. I understand, number one, trying to get people to work together is probably a large problem because you have some people that are down with the cause. You have other people that just want to be part of the cause, and you have some people that just, complains and critiques, right? They critique about everything when they haven't built anything, right? So building an institution is extremely difficult. So I applaud them and developing a conference. I don't care if it's a 3 hour conference, a 5 hour conference, a day conference, a 2 day. It is extremely difficult and time consuming. So I definitely bow to the creators of the Blackprint 20 wonderful event. Philadelphia, is the Blackprint particularly the current Blackprint, for those of us who are working towards that goal. So I see all the congratulations and thank yous coming from the chat. So if you want to have those chats and congratulations, go ahead and fill that in. Teaching Black History Conference, the links are in there. Micro credential links are in there. Me and Abigail should be doing an informational for the micro credentials very soon, so look out for that. Registration for Black History Nerds. If you're coming to our March, April, and May, event, y'all, we're doing it. Everybody's doing it. We need your support. Spread the word. Friend, a colleague, someone um, who's interested in these things, because again, we have to go back to grassroots um, um, help, right, for these organizations that do the work that we all know that's needed to be done. All right. So without further ado, go in there and do that laundry, do them dishes, relax on this lovely Saturday, and I'll see y'all next time on Black History Nerds.
Another great job. Thank you. Goodbye.